Blood splattered across her white silk wedding gown. 24 people lay dead in the Madrid streets. Shrapnel embedded itself in the royal carriage seat just inches from where she sat. But somehow, impossibly, the €12 million diamond tiara remained perfectly positioned on Queen Victoria Eugenie's head, as if the 500 diamonds had formed a protective shield around the woman who would become one of history's most tragic queens. This is the story of La Buena, the good one, a tiara that would witness revolution, survive exile, and carry what many believed was a curse that haunted 3 generations of Spanish queens. But here's what nobody tells you about this legendary jewel. It wasn't cursed at all. It was a protector, and today I'm going to prove it to you. When Princess Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg married King Alfonso XIII of Spain in 1906, she received what appeared to be the perfect wedding gift, a magnificent tiara crafted by Spain's royal jewelers, Anserena. 3 towering fleur-de-lis motifs, each encrusted with brilliant diamonds, connected by flowing scrollwork that caught the light like captured starfire. It was meant to symbolize her new role as Queen of Spain, a bridge between her British heritage and her Spanish future. But within hours of receiving it, this tiara would become something far more significant. It would become a witness to one of the most shocking royal assassination attempts in history. It would survive the fall of a monarchy, decades of exile, and the personal tragedies that would earn it a reputation as one of the most cursed jewels in royal history. Yet here's the mystery that has puzzled royal historians for over a century. Why did every woman who wore this tiara face unimaginable tragedy, yet somehow emerge stronger? Why did Queen Ina cling to it through exile when she could have sold it for a fortune? And why, after 44 years hidden away, did it return to become the most important tiara in the Spanish royal collection? The answers lie not in superstition, but in the extraordinary story of survival, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds between mothers, daughters, and the precious objects that carry our most sacred memories. Diamonds under fire. Let me take you back to May 31st, 1906. Madrid was alive with celebration. The streets overflowed with crowds eager to witness their young king marry the granddaughter of Queen Victoria. Princess Ina, as she was known, had already captured Spanish hearts with her grace and beauty. The wedding was meant to be Spain's moment of glory on the world stage. The tiara she wore that morning was a masterpiece of Spanish craftsmanship. Anserena, the royal jewelers, had outdone themselves. Over 500 diamonds, each carefully selected and set in platinum, a revolutionary choice for the time. The 3 fleur-de-lis motifs weren't just decorative, they were deeply symbolic, representing the ancient Bourbon dynasty that Alfonso embodied. Each diamond was positioned to catch and reflect light from every angle, creating what contemporary observers described as a crown of captured stars. But the tiara's most ingenious feature was its adaptability. The fleur-de-lis elements could be detached and worn as brooches. The frame could be adjusted from a closed coronet to an open diadem. It was jewelry designed for a modern queen who would need to navigate changing times. None of this mattered when the bomb exploded. As the royal carriage made its way back from the ceremony, anarchist Mateu Moral hurled his weapon from a hotel window. The device, hidden in a bouquet of flowers, detonated with devastating force. In an instant, celebration turned to carnage. 24 people died. Over 100 were wounded. Horses screamed. Blood pooled in the cobblestones. And through it all, Queen Ina sat frozen in shock. Her wedding dress splattered with the blood of the dying, her new tiara somehow still perfectly positioned on her head. Contemporary accounts describe the scene with haunting detail. The bomb fragment that struck the king's shoulder, breaking his golden fleece necklace. The way Queen Ina turned her head at the precise moment of explosion. a movement that may have saved her life. The eerie silence that followed the blast, broken only by the groans of the wounded. But what struck witnesses most was the sight of the young queen, blood-stained but unbroken, her diamond tiara catching the afternoon sun like a beacon of survival. In that moment, the tiara transformed from a wedding gift into something far more powerful, a symbol of resilience in the face of unthinkable violence. The Spanish press would later write that the tiara seemed to have protected its wearer, that the diamonds had somehow deflected the worst of the blast. Superstitious courtiers whispered that it was a sign that this jewel was destined for greatness or perhaps for tragedy. They had no idea how prophetic those words would prove to be. The blood curse awakens. The tiara had survived bombs, but could it survive a mother's guilt? By 1907, Queen Ina had given birth to her first son, Alfonso, the heir to the Spanish throne. The court celebrated. The dynasty was secure. But within months, a routine medical procedure revealed a devastating truth. The prince had haemophilia, the royal disease that had haunted Queen Victoria's descendants across Europe. King Alfonso XIII was furious. He had known the risk. Ina's brother Leopold was a haemophiliac, but he had chosen love over caution. Now, faced with the reality of his decision, he turned his anger on his wife. The woman who had survived an assassination attempt on her wedding day now faced a different kind of attack, the cold fury of a husband who blamed her for cursing his bloodline. The tiara became Ina's armor during these dark years. Court photographers captured her wearing it at state functions, her face a mask of regal composure while her marriage crumbled behind palace walls. But the jewel itself was changing too. Around 1910, Ina made a crucial modification to her wedding tiara. She had Anserina convert it from its original closed coronet form to a more open, flexible design. The change was practical. It made the tiara easier to wear with different hairstyles, but it was also symbolic. Like its owner, the tiara was adapting, becoming more resilient, more versatile. It was during this period that the tiara earned its nickname, La Buena, the good one. Not because it brought good luck, but because it was the most reliable, the most magnificent, the most trustworthy jewel in the Spanish collection. When Ina needed to project strength and authority, she reached for La Buena. The tiara witnessed the birth of Ina's second haemophiliac son, Gonzalo, in 1914. It was present at countless state dinners where the Queen smiled graciously while her husband grew increasingly distant. It adorned her head during the dark years of World War I, when Spain's neutrality made Ina a target for criticism from both sides. But the tiara's most heartbreaking moments came in the 1930s, when both of Ina's haemophiliac sons died young. First Gonzalo, at just 19, bleeding to death after a minor car accident. Then Alfonso, the heir, dying at 31 from the same cruel disease that had defined his life. Each time, Queen Ina wore La Buena to the funerals. Each time the diamonds caught her tears. Critics whispered that the tiara was cursed, that it brought misfortune to all who wore it. But they missed the deeper truth. The tiara wasn't causing the tragedy. It was bearing witness to it, absorbing the pain, becoming a repository for a mother's grief and a queen's unbreakable will to endure. As Spain itself began to crumble under political pressure, as the monarchy faced its greatest crisis since the Napoleonic Wars, the tiara prepared for its ultimate test. The Great Escape. April 14th, 1931. Queen Victoria Eugenie had hours to save a dynasty's treasures. The Second Spanish Republic had been declared. King Alfonso XIII was abdicating. The royal family was fleeing into exile, and Ina faced an impossible choice. What do you take when you're leaving a kingdom forever? Other royal families had faced similar moments. The Romanovs had left their jewels behind and paid with their lives. The French royals had seen their treasures scattered to the winds. But Ina was different. She was a survivor. And she understood something that would prove crucial. These weren't just jewels. They were symbols of Spanish monarchy itself. As she packed her most precious possessions, the Fleur-de-Lis Tiara went into her luggage without question. But Ina was thinking beyond her own needs. She was thinking about the future, about the day when Spain might want its king back. In her Swiss exile, living in the Villa Vieillefontaine in Lausanne, Ina made a decision that would change royal history. She created the concept of joyas de passage, jewels of passage, a collection of 8 pieces that would belong not to any individual, but to the institution of Spanish monarchy itself. The Fleur-de-Lis Tiara was the first item on the list. This wasn't sentiment, this was strategy. Ina understood that when the monarchy returned, and she never doubted it would, these jewels would be essential symbols of legitimacy and continuity. They would prove that the Spanish crown had survived, that the traditions endured, that the exile had been temporary. For decades, La Buena lived in Swiss vaults, carefully maintained and occasionally worn by Ina at private gatherings of exiled royalty. She wore it to the pre-wedding celebrations of the future Queen Elizabeth II in 1947. She chose it for her granddaughter Infanta Pilar's wedding ball in 1967, her final public appearance in the tiara that had defined her reign. When Ina died in 1969, exactly 38 years after leaving Spain, her will was crystal clear. The joyas de passage would go to her son, Don Juan, and from him to whoever became the next Queen of Spain. The tiara had survived revolution, exile, and the death of its first owner. Now it waited for its next chapter. But would Spain ever want its exiled treasures back? The Restoration Gamble. November 22, 1975. Spain had a king again. When Juan Carlos I was proclaimed King of Spain after Franco's death, his wife Sofía inherited something extraordinary: the keys to a treasure vault that had been locked away for 44 years. Among those treasures was La Buena, the tiara that had witnessed the fall of the Spanish monarchy and now waited to witness its restoration. But Queen Sofía faced a delicate problem. Spain was transitioning to democracy. The memories of the civil war were still raw. How do you reintroduce symbols of the old monarchy without appearing tone-deaf to a nation that had rejected royal rule decades earlier? Sofía's solution was masterful. She waited. For 8 years, the Fleur-de-Lis Tiara remained hidden while Spain found its democratic footing. The new constitution was ratified in 1978. The monarchy's role was clearly defined. Only then did Sofía feel it was safe to bring out the crown jewels. The moment came on March 22, 1983, during a state visit from the King and Queen of Sweden. As the grand doors of the Royal Palace banquet hall opened, Queen Sofía entered wearing La Buena for the first time in over half a century. The effect was electric. Spanish observers who had never seen the tiara gasped at its magnificence. The 3 diamond fleur-de-lis blazed under modern electric chandeliers, just as they had under candlelight in Ina's time. Here was visible proof that the Spanish monarchy had not just survived, it had returned in full splendor. For the next 3 decades, Queen Sofía used the tiara strategically, reserving it for the most important state occasions. When Queen Elizabeth II visited Spain in 1988, Sofía wore La Buena to the return banquet, a subtle nod to the tiara's British origins through Queen Ina. When the Dutch royals came calling, when the French president visited, when Spain needed to project its full majesty on the world stage, La Buena was there. The tiara had successfully bridged the gap between the old Spain and the new, between the monarchy that had fled in 1931 and the constitutional monarchy that emerged in 1975. It had proven that some symbols are too powerful to be destroyed by political upheaval, but its greatest test was yet to come. A modern queen's inheritance. June 19, 2014. King Juan Carlos abdicated, and once again, the Fleur-de-Lis Tiara passed to a new queen. Letizia Ortiz had never expected to wear a tiara, let alone one with such extraordinary history. A former television journalist, she represented modern Spain, professional, independent, thoroughly 21st century. How would she handle the weight of La Buena's legacy? For 3 years, she didn't wear it at all. Royal watchers speculated, was the tiara too heavy, too old-fashioned, too associated with Spain's complicated past? Some wondered if Letizia would ever embrace the most important jewel in the Spanish collection. The answer came on February 22, 2017. The occasion was a state banquet for the President of Argentina. As the doors opened and Queen Letizia entered the throne room of the royal palace, she was wearing La Buena for the first time. The Spanish press went wild. Queen Letizia debuts the Fleur-de-Lis Tiara, emblem of the Bourbons, proclaimed El País. The choice, they noted, underscored the importance that the royal household placed on the state visit. But this was more than diplomatic protocol. This was a modern queen claiming her place in a story that began over a century earlier. When Letizia wore La Buena, she connected herself to Queen Ina's courage, to Queen Sofia's wisdom, to the unbroken chain of Spanish queens who had worn these diamonds through triumph and tragedy. Since then, Letizia has worn the tiara for Spain's most significant moments. The state visit to the United Kingdom in 2017, where it graced a British royal banquet for the first time since Queen Ina's era. The enthronement of Emperor Naruhito in Japan in 2019. The state banquet in Copenhagen in 2023. Each appearance sends the same message. The Spanish monarchy endures, the traditions continue, and La Buena remains what it has always been, a symbol of survival, adaptation, and the unbreakable bonds that connect past to present. The protector revealed. So, was La Buena really cursed? Or was it actually the opposite, a protector that helped its wearers survive the impossible? Look at the evidence. Every woman who wore this tiara faced unimaginable challenges. Queen Ina survived an assassination attempt, the heartbreak of losing 2 sons, the collapse of her marriage, and 40 years of exile. Queen Sofía navigated Spain's transition to democracy and helped restore the monarchy's reputation. Queen Letizia has modernized the Spanish crown while honoring its traditions. Yes, they all faced tragedy, but they all survived, they all transformed, they all ultimately triumphed. The Fleur-de-Lis Tiara isn't cursed, it's a witness. It has absorbed over a century of Spanish royal history, from the blood-soaked streets of 1906 to the glittering state banquets of today. It has been present for Spain's darkest moments and its greatest celebrations. It has proven that some symbols are too powerful to be destroyed by bombs, revolution, or the passage of time. Today, when Queen Letizia wears La Buena, she carries with her the strength of every woman who wore it before. The diamonds that once caught Queen Ina's tears now reflect Queen Letizia's smile. The tiara that witnessed the fall of a monarchy now crowns its restoration. In the end, perhaps that's what makes certain objects truly precious. Not their material value, but their ability to connect us across time, to carry our stories forward, to prove that love, courage, and hope can survive anything. What treasures in your own life carry such powerful stories? What objects connect you to your family's history, your own moments of triumph and survival? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey through royal history, please give this video a like and subscribe for more stories of the extraordinary jewels that have shaped our world.